Now, America's Talking, where we check out the Center Square's coverage around the nation. There was a horrible crash in Virginia last Friday, blamed on a non-English speaking man who emigrated from China. 5 people were killed in that crash and dozens of others injured. The man blamed for the crash is 48-year-old Jing Dong, a U.S. citizen who will be charged with involuntary manslaughter in that crash. He was driving a big motor coach for E&P Travel, headquartered in North Carolina, driving from New York to North Carolina. A family of 4, an entire family, including children, traveling from Massachusetts to South Carolina for a wedding on Sunday. They were killed in that Friday crash, as was a young woman from Massachusetts. This crash occurred on I-95 in Stafford County. As I mentioned, dozens of others injured, 44 others taken to area hospitals, and 3 remain in critical condition as of today. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy addressed the horrible crash, saying that Dong could not speak English, but was still allowed to obtain a commercial driver's license from New York in 2024. Duffy called that unacceptable. This is just the latest of many of these awful stories that we have covered in recent weeks and months, caused by drivers who obtain CDLs. In some cases, they're illegal immigrants. In this case, the man was a U.S. citizen, but did not apparently speak English. Now to New Jersey, where violent clashes continue between ICE officers and anti-ICE agitators. A nighttime curfew remains in effect outside of that New Jersey ICE detention facility today after days of these violent confrontations and demonstrators that prompted Governor Sherrill to deploy state police to restore order. That curfew is in place from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., and there were groups of people that were arrested over the weekend violating that order, that curfew order, but also bringing with them all kinds of objects. They were armed with helmets, shields, gas masks, and ignored that state police order to disperse. Again, dozens of arrests were made. That ICE facility there in New Jersey has become the latest flashpoint in opposition to President Trump's crackdown on immigration since a group of detainees allegedly went on a hunger strike there to protest conditions, they say, inside that facility. And finally, in Ohio, a random sampling of childcare centers receiving taxpayer subsidies turns up $1 million in overpayments. Sounds very familiar to people in Washington state, no doubt. They said it was a random sample review of taxpayer-funded licensed childcare centers where they found this $1 million in overpayments. And they actually terminated agreements with 10 of those daycare centers. 400 providers representing, they say, a statistically valid sampling of the total number of providers with agreements to provide publicly funded childcare in Ohio. They say the reviews included an in-depth analysis of attendance records and practice. And again, some of these centers no longer receiving state funding. Now, based on the sampling they took and the number of providers in Ohio receiving taxpayer subsidies, they say this really is just representative of only 1.6% of all of their spending annually on daycare subsidies, which amounts to nearly $1 billion, $969 million in Ohio. So that is a wrap on this Monday's June 1st episode of the Center Square Daily. As always, we thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to us on social media and join us tomorrow for more stories impacting you, the taxpayer.